Check, 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 check. 1 2 1 2. How's everybody doing today? Come on in. I have been looking forward to this workshop all week, and I feel bad that I had to delay it by a day and an hour, so I guess 25 hours, because I've been working on beta testing with my game, Twisted Tower. Sorry, I got something on my shirt here. And beta testing with Twisted Tower is going really, really good, and I have learned so much about how to make a commercial first-person shooter. And so we're going to jump inside of Unity. I'm going to show you the basics of making a super simplistic first-person shooter super duper juicy and crunchy and fun and exciting. So come on in, guys. Let's get started. And by the way, there should be... Actually, I'm just going to tell you about it here. There is a character controller I'm going to be using today on the Unity Asset Store. And there's a bunch of free character controllers on the Unity Asset Store. For me, the one that I really like to use is this one right here. Let me switch my screen here. We're using this one right here, and it's from this developer called Elman Game Dev Tools. Let's see if I can find it here. Elman Game Dev Tools. It's a first-person controller. I should have put a link in the description, guys. I'm sorry. But anyway, I will put that in the description in just a sec. But let's go ahead and get started here. Here's what we've got today. And by the end of today or tomorrow, in case I have to do this for 2 days, because sometimes these workshops will last for 2 days. At the end of today or tomorrow, we're going to have this game so freaking fun. All we have here are these Langoliers. Does anybody know what Langoliers are? Who in the chat knows what a Langolier is? But we have these little Langoliers here that hurt the player, and it's basically infinite. They get faster and faster and faster and faster. So all I did was had a character controller here. I added a little weapon controller to it. It's just simply shooting this terrible gun model here. And if they touch me, I die. Now, the cool thing is they do home towards me as well. So we can increase the homing and make it feel much more aggressive. And then you get a big game over screen, right? Believe it or not, and we'll test this, right? My hypothesis is we can make this extremely fun without actually changing the mechanics. We might have to change the speed of things. But overall, that's all we really need is a simple loop like that. And we can make it super duper fun. All right. Do I plan on working on another first-person shooter? First-person shooters are hard, guys. There's certain things you can get away with like a third-person story-driven game. First-person, you're automatically boxing yourself into this genre. And people are particular about the genre. They really are. And I get it. Okay, guys, here is what we're going to be working on today. Okay? There are some rules to 10x the fun factor of your game. Okay? I've got 8 here, although I might throw in some bonuses at the end. The first one is player movement. Just make player movement a little bit funner. And we're going to jump into that really quick. There's world sizing. We'll talk about that. Movement, animation, sound, color, enemy reactions, player reactions, coin collection, UI. Excuse me. Allergies. Okay, so the first thing, player movement. Right now, the player movement feels a little bit stiff, although I did choose this character controller because it's the least stiff out of all of the ones I could find. But I kind of feel like I want the jump height to be a little bit more exciting. Although that's not terrible. Let's just clean it up a little bit, okay? And also, let's double check and see if we can adjust the gravity. The gravity is a little bit, weirdly enough, with Unity, negative 9.81, which is like standard world gravity. I always move this to about negative 13. And I did this for Twisted Tower as well. I just don't want it to feel too floaty. So let's hit play and take a look. Automatically, that feels better. Man. Yep. Okay, that's so much better. I'm going to make it a little bit higher. So you want to fine-tune your player movement before we start fine-tuning the world scale, okay? So what I mean is platforms you can jump on, stairs, walls, even enemy size. All of this stuff should be fine-tuned around the player movement. So we want to do the get the player movement perfect first. I'm going to make the jump height a little bit bigger. We're going to do something like 2. Let's take a look. And that's because I want this to feel much more like bouncy. Ooh, that feels good. Yes. So I just want to be kind of crazy. It's kind of like Quake almost, you know? Maybe we could make the gravity -15. Interestingly, I think the jump height, I love this character controller because the jump height is, that value there is actually a unity meter. So I can say, look, I want it to be 2, and it's always going to be 2, even though the gravity is much stronger. So this feels great. This is very Quake-ish and Halo-y. Okay, that's great. So let's set it to -15. Jump height is 2. Okay. So now that we've fine-tuned the player, okay, now that we know that we like the player, ooh, my ears just started ringing. Woo! Okay. Now that we've fine-tuned the player, we're going to move on to step 2, okay? Step 2 is world sizing, okay? We need to know, okay, how big does this platform, this is going to be like a game. I can't remember what the game is called, but there's a game where like sort of demonic ghosts are flying towards you and you're like this hell world and you're on a circular platform and it's infinite. So this is kind of inspired by that. But if we wanted to make this like a big platform, maybe a circular platform, how big would we want the various elements? So for example, this is the player's size right here. Okay, just keep this in mind. This is something you need to write down. This is something you need to put in your brain forever, whether you're making a 2D game or a 3D game. A Unity or a character controller needs to be twice as tall as a primitive cube. Okay, so we got a primitive cube here. It's set to 111, right? That's the scale. This is going to be 2 times as tall. And that is true because this is 2. So it's perfectly sized. So now I need to be thinking, okay, well, how big is my jump height? Well, my jump height is actually as big as the player, right? So I could say a width of 5, height of 2, and then a depth of 5. This might be a really nice platform, okay? So let's hold V here, and I could snap it there. I don't love 5 because my grid, that's kind of hard to get the grid to look pretty at units of 5. So maybe we could do 4 by 2 by 4, okay? So this could be our platform. Let's see if we could jump onto this and see how it feels. This is so important. I've talked about this in previous videos. Whether it's a third-person controller, whether it's a 2D game, it doesn't matter. You want to make sure that, oh, do you see how freaking good that feels? Look at that. You want the world to be sized to your controller. I guarantee you 50% of you watching, minimum, have not thought about this. You have not thought, you know what? I need to make my world joined and unified in size and scale and speed. Everything needs to be fine-tuned for the player. Okay, so this is great. I love this. So we're going to call this platform. And we're going to use this over and over and over again. We don't have to put any texture on this right now. We're not going to worry about that. All we're going to do is sort of set dress our world, okay? So there's our platform. I'm just going to create an original prefab out of it. And now I can just paste this all over the place and create this little world, okay? I could put 2 up here, but now that I know that I can only jump to a height of 2, this is a height of 4, so I know I can't get up there. So let's go ahead and just drag this here. Do you guys see why it's so important to know how high the player can jump? It's so important. And I did not always think this way, and I'm not going to take credit for the way I'm thinking here. This is something that Felipe, the 3D artist, long ago when we first started working on Twisted Tower, what he told me. He was like, Thomas, we cannot just set dress randomly. I was like, really? Why not? And he said, if I'm going to make an effective level design, I need to be able to. Why can't I do this? Son of a bee. Why can't I do this? He said, I need to be able to know the size of things, right? I think that's good. Let's take a look. Feels good. And these are going to be able to fly through surfaces, and I'll make them kind of look like ghosts or, flying demonic heads or something. The AI is not going to be super robust, but I think this will be just fine. We'll make it look cool. Make it maybe look like a purgatory or something. Okay. All right. Let's see if we can just take away this here and maybe make a few more. Take all of these, bring them down. And we're just going to see if we can... Actually, I'm pretty happy with how it looks, honestly. I'm not going to worry too much about that. So the world is sized to the player movement, right? The next thing on our list, and yes, absolutely, Zekanag, 1000%, 1000%. This is why greyboxing is so freaking important. Greyboxing is not just laying out your level design from a player like a player like a golden path perspective. Greyboxing is putting together a world that is scaled perfectly to the size of the player, so that it feels good to jump onto platforms. It feels good to run across through hallways, to climb ladders. The world needs to feel like it's perfectly fine-tuned for the player movement. All right, the next thing we're going to work on. So that's number 2, okay? And you're probably thinking, these first 2 things don't matter. These first 2 things are absolutely critical if you're going to make a fun game. It does not feel fun to jump on platforms that aren't the right size. Okay, let's move on to movement animations, okay? So we've got right now one simple animation for shooting, okay? We're going to use this gun model. We're going to use this gun model to animate the player movement. I know that sounds weird, but what we're going to do is animate this in such a way that it makes it look like we're moving. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into this weapon model here. And you can see here that the only thing we're really worried about, if we go to our shoot animation here, I'm going to hide the chat really quick. If we go to our shoot animation here, it's actually just pivoting right there, see? So let's at first, before we fine tune all of our animations, let's just make sure they're all set up properly, okay? So I know right now that I have various states, okay? If I hit play here, there are various states that my weapon controllers already keep a track of, okay? They're right here. If I'm moving, if I'm running, if I'm jumping, if I'm grounded, when I land, okay, that's not really a Boolean, it's more of a trigger, right? When I land, it's land, land, land. And these are all being defined, admittedly, with the help of Claude, because I put this together really quick, with the help of Claude, and that's Copilot. And that's all in this weapon controller here. So the weapon controller is listening to the player controller, which is a persistent game object. And it's saying, okay, what's going on with the player controller? Is it currently in the air? Is it currently grounded? Is it moving? Is he running? It's listening to that, and then it's setting our animator values here. So now that we know what those values are, now that we know that those animator values are being set, I can tell the animator tree right here, I could tell it what to do, right? So right now, currently, it's only going to be shooting, right? Let me go ahead and change my display settings really quick so we can zoom in a little bit for you guys. Display settings. I'm going to go to like 120. No, let's go to 1. Let's actually go to 200%. I think that's better for you guys to see. That's a little much. Hang on. Okay, how we doing, guys? Everybody good? Everybody good so far? Does anybody have any questions before we move forward? Does anybody have any questions before we move forward? Would an enum not be better for binary state control? What? I don't know what you mean. Do I consider greyboxing part of prototyping, or is this just part of the art process? You're always going to be greyboxing, whether you're making a prototype or you're making a new game or a new level. And in fact, making a new level is, in a way, restarting the prototyping process to a degree. You're just starting fresh. And the reason you gray box is so that you can quickly put together a level and change it really fast without, blowing your budget, right? Okay, so any questions? How much zoom? Did you fix the Twisted Tower bug? I did, yes, just now, before we started live streaming. That's why I'm a little late. How much zoom? I think we're at like 150 right now. Or no, 200, no, 175. Okay, we're zoomed in here. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is let's just make sure our idle animation is working properly. Okay, so I'm just going to animate the pivot. Okay, I'm going to make sure it's set to pivot here. There we go. And all I'm going to do is this. Just so that I want to see all of my animations happening. Okay, so let's see if this loops properly. Okay, there's our idle state. Good. There's our shoot. Good. And all we're doing right now is just getting it set up. Once they're all connected and we know that the transitions are working properly and all the booleans and triggers are working properly, then we can just go in and crank up the juice for that gun. Okay? All right, so there's our idle animation. It goes too far down. Makes me feel like there's something wrong happening. But let's hit play here. Take a look again. All right, guys. Everybody good? Everybody happy? All right, idle state is good. It's very annoying, but at least it's working. Let's go to the land state. Okay, this one's really important. The land state, or the land animation, is very important. It makes us feel heavy, and it also allows us to maybe even play a sound when the animation plays. So we're going to do weapon land. And we're just going to see if we can just do a subtle animation. Let's think about it. If I was to jump up in the air, it would do this, and then I would come down, and then it would do that. It would just bump down just a little bit, like this. And then it would come back up. Okay? So let's see how that looks. Great to see you, man. I love your streams. I learn a ton. That's from Sahan. So you can see here that the jump is not happening, right? And that's okay. We also need a run animation, but the landing animation is not happening. Let's make sure that that happens. Okay, so I actually am not going to worry about that right now. I realized what we need to do is we need a run state, a run animation. So the idle is just driving me nuts because it feels like I'm moving, and that's going to be really confusing. So all I want it to be is just very subtle. Okay, for running though, let's go ahead and create a new animation. We're going to call this weapon run, and what's cool is we can actually use this animation to play sounds from it. Okay, so we're going to call this weapon run, and then we're also going to have one called weapon move. Okay, so weapon run is going to be very fast. It's going to be like this. And all we're doing is just getting the animation set up properly. Okay, so there's weapon run. Let's go ahead and create another one called weapon move. Actually, let's call this walk for full clarity. Walk, all it is just a little bit slower, That's all it is. And again, we just want to get these set up. There's weapon walk. Weapon run, we're going to make much faster just so we're absolutely sure it's playing. Okay. And then here's idle. Okay. So there's a couple booleans we want to create, right? We have shoot as a trigger already. Let's set the boolean. This is walking. And remember, booleans tend to be conditions that are currently occurring, aka you tend to use ing, walking, right? A trigger is an actual verb. Walk. Is that walking is a verb, but it's, I don't know actually what I don't even know what the grammar is. What's the grammar? Somebody tell me. Okay, so let's set the we have walking, but then we also have running. Okay? Or sprinting, right? So let's just go ahead and get the walk state set up here. So I'm going to say, look, if I'm in the idle state, let's go ahead and go to the walk state, right? I don't really want to use any state because the truth is that the walking state won't occur if we're jumping. I guess I could. Let's see what happens, actually. Let's see what happens. We're going to use any state here and see what happens. But I really only, we're going to be a lot more precise here, actually. Sorry. I don't like using any state for this kind of thing because I feel like we don't always want to be walking. Like we're going to be, if we're jumping or even if we're sprinting or we're shooting or we're landing. So walking is really only one of those things that should happen if we're in the idle state and we go from the idle state and start to move. That's my theory. So anyway, let's see if this actually is true. So we're going to turn off exit time. I'm cool with a transition duration of like 0.1. I do want it to loop. And then we want it to go back if we go back to idle. So if walking is false. No exit time. Exit time means you're going to wait for the animation to complete. We don't want that. We want it to immediately stop, right? That makes sense? And I'm going to move the chat to maybe above my head right here. Walking is the present participle. Okay, good. All right. So transition is if walking is false, go on back to walking idle or weapon idle. So let's see how this looks. I'm going to make a new tab over here or move it over here so that we can see it. And let's hit play and take a look. Does the walking occur? It does not because it says moving. Okay. So it should be, let's set it to walking. I don't like moving. That's an ugly word. Walking is more descriptive. Is walking is a Boolean here in the script. I'm going to change it to this. There we go. Any other issues? Nope. We're good with the script. All right. Animation for walking should work now. Walk is a verb. Walking can be an adjective or a verb depending on the context. See, I should have gone to school. But we have AI now, so who cares? So there's our walk. Look, you see it? Walking's occurring, and then it goes to idle. I believe there's an exit time there, which we don't want. Or is it the transition duration? Okay, walking is a delayed stop, which is kind of frustrating. It's fine. It's fine for now. I'll fine tune it, but it's fine. Okay, sprinting, right? If the player is walking and we start to run, let's just go ahead and begin the run, okay? So it's good to try and keep your animation tree looking pretty. Okay, if we're walking, and if we're running, go to the run state. No exit time. 0.1 is our transition duration, right? We want to be able to go to the next state immediately. So this transition will bypass and go to that one if running is set to true. And then we're going to go back to the weapon walk state if running is false. No exit time, pretty quick transition. Interruption source, next state. So it should bypass and go to this one. So that's the theory. Running, is that an actual Boolean? Let's double check. It is. So let's hit play and take a look. You guys ready? Can you use a timeline to adjust for the transitions for walking? Idling. We're going to use transitions here. There he goes. I'm running. I'm walking. Something feels really sensual about that. I think it might be the shadow there. Anyway, let's keep walking here. And then we're also going to need a cool jump animation. But overall, man, that feels good. So already it's feeling so much better. I will say, guys, if there's one thing that I knew was going to take a bit of time and that was going to be the most complicated and required the most fine tuning, it is the animation. This gun animation, especially like whether it's first person or third person, in third person it's much harder because you got to worry about everything. In first person, it's just the gun, right? So if we could just make that gun feel weighty and heavy, we can accomplish a lot, right? Okay. Um, the shooting needs to occur all the time, right? And so what I'm going to do is actually delete this transition here. And in any state, we're going to say, look, if shoot occurs, we're going to that shoot animation, right? Whether I'm in the air, it's really a high priority item, right? Now, obviously, we could probably create a layer out of this. I'm not going to worry about that. I think we're going to be just fine here. No exit time, and it's going to be instantaneous transition. If shoot occurs, go. No interruption source. The shoot occurs, and then we're going to go back to idle with an exit time of, I'm going to do 0.5. So let's see what happens here. Jump, shoot. Run, shoot, 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 shoot. Jump, shoot. So you can see that shoot is the priority here, right? It doesn't matter what I'm doing. Because we're using any state, the shoot is always going to happen, which is super valuable. That's really important for a game. Really kind of prioritizing movement, right? Knowing what the player really cares about. In this case, it's the ability to shoot things, okay? So far, we good, guys? Any questions so far? How we doing? Hey, Thomas, what's up? This is from Evan. I've taken a break from my game development project with my friends while they are in college, and I've been teaching myself to draw and do art. Should we upgrade our Unity version? It depends on how far along. If you're at like the 60% mark, maybe 70% done, probably not. There's really no reason unless you like really need some of the cool new Unity 6 features. Like I think they have the upresing thing now. I can't remember what it's called. Yeah. Okay. Jumping. We need to do a jumping animation, okay? We're not going to worry about landing right now. Let's go ahead and do the jump animation. So we're going to call this weapon jump. Now, when we jump, jumping is probably the trickiest thing to animate. Again, whether it's 2D platformer, whether it's a third-person character controller, or a first-person character controller, you have to think in terms of lag. When you jump, what lags behind? What's on a hinge, right? My head's on a hinge. So you might see animations in 2D or third person where the head does this and then it goes up. It's almost like on this little floppy bobblehead hinge. With the gun here, if I were to jump, I would pull down and then I'd go up like this and then it would do this. Ooh, boom. That hurt. Ouch. Boom, boom, like that. Okay. So I'm going to do this. It's going to be instantaneous. I'm doing this. It's going to immediately go down and then it's going to go up and then back down. Actually, it's only going to go up. That is very, very phallic. But it's only going to go up. So I'm going to, and it's going to create sort of this, let's see here. And I'm telling you guys, this is the trickiest animation to get right. All right, that's all we need. So there's our jump. If the player is idle or walking or running, we can go to the jump state. Right? So sadly, let's think here. We may be able to use any state, but we might get conflicts with the shooting. Let's try. Because what I might do is go to weapon shoot if shoot occurs. And then this can be bypassed with interruption source next state. That's the theory. So let's see if this actually works though, okay? Jumping is a Boolean. I am currently jumping, right? And let's double check the script to be sure. It is. So look, if I'm jumping, then go ahead and play this animation. But if I shoot, immediately bypass it and go to shoot. So no exit time here, 0. Transition. This one, interruption source is next state. Good. Transition duration is 0. If I'm going from any state to jump, I want it to be immediate. Boom, 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 right? Pop up really fast. That's the goal. Most of these animations, you want them to be snappy and quick. That's one of the keys to great juice in games, whether it's particles or animations or sounds or screen shake. It's instant, very fast. Right? Okay. So let's see if going from any state to jump actually works. Double check here, make sure everything looks good. Nope, we got to set that to jumping. So this is if shoot. This one is if jumping. So we got to set that to the correct one. If jumping is true, and then once we're done, we need to go to land. Always go to land after the jump. I can't think of a situation where I wouldn't want to play the land animation. I guess it would be if for some reason we're like falling a little bit, just a tiny bit, and then it plays the land animation. So we might need a condition here where landing doesn't play, right? So I'm going to say if trigger, and I believe it's the land trigger. If the land trigger occurs, then we're going to go to weapon land. But I'm not going to worry about this right now because I already know I'm going to start getting confused here. I want to make sure this works. Let's hit play. Hello, Jason. How are you, buddy? Hurt animation during jump. I think we're going to need a layer. Whoa. Already, I just love it. So let's double check here. If jumping is true, but for some reason it's getting set to true. Oh, it's because I fell a little bit. So let's go back to weapon idle here. And we're going to say if jumping is false, right? Pretty straightforward. I'm going to have to change this transition in a sec when we trigger the land animation. But for now, no exit time, instantaneous. Maybe like 0.1 transition. So let's hit play. Hey, North Game. How are you? So for some reason, the weapon jump is like frozen. We're going to have to see what's going on here. Let's see. If I delete that, what happens? That's weird. It's like frozen. It's because it's trying to continue to play it for some reason. If jumping equals true and we're in any state, but also it's trying to maybe do this. Let's think here. What could be that. We don't want it to be able to transition to itself. Okay, so let's turn that off here and see if that fixes it. For some reason, it's doing it multiple times. I think we need a subtle exit time for the jump, perhaps. I don't know, actually. Maybe it's this. I'm going to turn that off and see what happens. Okay. So it's definitely the landing or the going back to idle state. If I set this to 0.2, what happens here? Let's take a look. I told you guys, this animation tree is the trickiest part. For some reason, it's playing multiple times. Let's see here. I don't like the exit time. I think that's causing some problems. So let's try and think through what's going on here. For some reason, it's moving into that weapon jump multiple times. Interruption source, next state. I'm going to say none for now and see what happens. Look at that. It's doing it twice. If jump equals false. Let's do this. We're going to remove that. And we're going to go to the land and see if we can actually get that land to occur And then after the land occurs, because we need that trigger to occur, after that occurs, then hopefully we'll go and move back to idle. Good, that works. And then we'll just go back to idle, turn off loop, and we're going to go back to idle here if jumping is false. Exit time? Yeah, maybe a little bit. You kind of want to see a little bit of that. Yeah, no, I want a full exit time. Let's try it out. Gotta be careful though. There's running, jumping. For some reason he's getting stuck in that jump animation. Jumping gets set to false multiple times. That's so weird. Jumping is getting set to false multiple times. We're going to turn off our game manager for now so that we're not getting hit. And we're going to fine tune this, baby. We're going to fine tune this and make it feel real good, I promise. That land animation is triggering. Let's see if we can get Claude to do some work for us. The land trigger appears to be getting triggered multiple times quickly when landing. When initiating a jump. Can we check to ensure the... Let's think here. There's got to be a way to do this without code. I kind of want the landing to just happen if jumping is false. You know? That's really all I want. I don't really need a trigger. The problem is it's doing it to it's like look, jumping gets set multiple times here. I think what we need to do is jumping should not be set to false if the y velocity is positive. Jumping should not be able to be set to false if the y velocity is positive. He should only, well, let's think here. Is that a problem? Let's think, why is jumping... You know, jumping should not be able to get set to false if the y velocity is positive or is, greater than 0.01f. So let's see what Claude comes up with that, and let's kind of move into the thinking through this running. The land needs to occur and then it goes to idle, but I can also shoot. So aside from that weird buggy jump animation happening multiple times. Because what it's doing is it's going to the land animation. We're still good. Okay, so the shoot is not taking priority over the jump, right? So I don't love the idea of jump coming from any state. It really needs to come from any of these guys. So it needs to come from idle. Because if I'm shooting, I don't want if I'm shooting, I don't want jump to be able to interrupt it. I need to be in an idle state in order to jump. Or in the walk state, etc., etc. Right? Yeah. Boy, that's ugly. We could probably use a bunch of different ways of going about this, but we're just going to do what we got to do here. No exit time, no exit time, no exit time. Jump, jump, jump. Boom, 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 boom. Goes back to idle. Hey, we can make it look prettier. How's that? Okay, let's hit play and see how this feels. Boing. Very good. So the jump gets bypassed because land is getting set to true. You can see the land trigger is being automatically triggered, which I just don't love, you know. I don't know if I like the idea of a land trigger. So I think we just need to do jumping equals false. Let's see here. Jumping is false, go there. We need to go back to jump from, yes, that's why. That's why. No exit time, 0. So if jumping equals false, this is such a problem. And we don't need the land trigger anymore. Let's see here. So what did Claude come up with here? Now reads the y velocity of player controller, blah, blah, blah. Change the jumping Boolean logic to should be jumping is grounded or y velocity is greater than 0.01. This ensures the jumping animation stays active when the player has upward velocity greater than 0.01. Even if they're technically grounded. I do like that. Good enough for me. Okay. Guys, we're using Claude because we want to do this quickly today. I don't have time right now to do all of the code diagnostics and writing the code. But that's fine. It should be fine, I think. It's not bad. Hey, it works. I don't mind it. I really don't. The animation is terrible, but we're going to make it look really good. Yep, shooting has priority here. Awesome. Okay. Now, you guys want to go ahead and get these animations looking good? I think we need to do that. All right. Very good. Let's get these animations looking good. The first one that's driving me crazy is that jump animation. It's really ugly, right? And also, I kind of want the transition for jumping to be a little bit less intense. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to change. So we're going to change the transition to like 0.2, and then we're going to make it so it's not so intense. And if we go to our game view here, we can kind of see how it's going to look in game. So it'll go down a little bit. And we could even, if we really, really want to, we can make the Y go down, right? And then up. I think you guys will be surprised why this is so valuable. So we're actually going to start here and zero out its rotation and its position. Let's think here. I'm going to put this right here. And then it's going to be, let's see here. Let's actually start it at its idle position. Pivot there. Jump here. Let's think here. Yep. Okay, we had an issue there. The weapon controller was rotating. We don't want that. We want the pivot. We want the pivot to be rotating. Okay. So, my bad. Rotate down. We're going to start here actually at 0. And when I jump, I'm going to go down or Yeah, it'll go down and then up. Yeah, it'll go down then up. Like this. And then up. Just a little bit though. And then moves up like this. So this is going to be the jump animation. And this will just slowly go up. Okay, let's see that. Let's feel that out. The start is a little the start, you got every little detail matters, guys. The start is a little bit aggressive or a little bit unaggressive. So we need to put like 0.05. Let's feel this out. We're going to speed up the start of it. Is it getting caught anywhere? Let's see here. The land. Okay, the land. So the land, we need to have have an interruption source. Let's see here. Jumping is true. Interruption source next. Let's try this. Good, there we go. Do you guys see it kind of how this feels weighty now? Very subtle. Okay. I'm just looking at all the different states. Okay. Hey, that feels pretty good. Next up, we're going to go to our jump animation here. We're going to speed this up at the beginning. Boom. Like that. And honestly, as I'm coming down, I don't see why we can't just rotate it a little bit more. Especially if like we're really falling, you know? So let's try this. It feels so much better. Okay, but we did have an issue there, which is that it didn't record. There we go. We'll move it up even higher, you know, like that. You want it to feel like your arms are kind of going over your head, right? All right, here we go. Oh, we had an issue there. Why did I see a delay there? I think it was the shooting. Let me think. I think what we need to do is have a separate layer for shooting. Yeah. It's that high priority that we really need a separate layer for shooting, guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the shoot animation here. And we're not going to worry about shooting right now. I'm going to put it on its own separate layer. This is the movement layer, and we'll worry about the shooting layer in a sec. But this is really starting to feel good. Jump, jump. Good. Okay. Let's go ahead and incorporate the shooting really quick. So this is going to be called the shooting layer. And layers are just ways to blend various priorities. This is going to be the movement layer. And then if we go to the shooting layer, I'm going to make it full weight here. And I believe, yep, there's the any state. Good. I'm going to go to my shoot animation. Just bring it in here. This should work. I think is what I did with Twisted Tower. I'm trying to remember. Any state here. And then we're going to go to the weapon shoot. And then we also have weapon idle. I'm going to do weapon not shooting. Do we need an... What am I doing? I'm trying to remember here. Guys, forgive me. I kind of forgot what to do here. Let me just at least do this for now. Okay, there's not shooting. Or we could just create an empty one, right? Yeah, we could just do an empty one. What am I doing? We'll just do an empty one. And then this is going to be the default state. And then any state goes to weapon shoot. Right? Boom. Although, I don't even know if we need that empty state. We'll see. We're going to set that to shoot, right? 0 transition. We don't want it to loop, which is fine. I'm going to get rid of that and just see what happens here. Entry is going to go to weapon shoot. I guess that's fine. Yeah, this is why you want it to start at the an empty. But let's at least see how this looks. So if I shoot, it's going to play the shoot animation and then it'll stop at the end of it. And it does this. So let's see if this works. Okay, it doesn't work because we're controlling a different animation. I'm trying to remember, guys. Because it's stuck in that shoot animation. There we go. So we're going to go back to, we're going to go in there and add an empty again. I'm trying to remember this. I'm sorry, I can't remember. Entry is going to go to this, right? This is going to be our empty state. Oh, this animation trees are not my strong suit. I always get them working, but they're not my strong suit, I will admit. Okay. Shoot, blah, blah, blah. Good, good, good. After shoot, we go to empty. But I wish that it would play. See, that's the thing, is I want it to play all the movement animations as well. So it's almost like I need a separate game object, like a shooting pivot that I can rotate as well. But let's see if this works. Okay, that's great, actually. Yeah, I think that'll work. Okay, let's get the land animation to be a little bit smoother, right? So if we go over here, we don't need that. That not shooting animation was such a mistake. I feel so stupid for doing that. Okay. The land animation, we need a smoother transition. So we're gonna do something like 0.1 or maybe 0.4. Let's try it. It's too slow. Yeah, you want it to be fast. Guys, this is why it's so important to have snappy animation. See? Now it's a little too much, obviously. But hey, we're almost there. So it goes a little too far down, right? And I will admit it's a little delayed because it seems like the conditions aren't really perfect. And watch this. Not only are we going to have it go to, it's back to its 0 position and 0 rotation. Not only are we going to do this, which let's just make sure this looks good. That feels good, man. That's actually good enough. We're not going to worry about it. Okay. The shoot animation sucks. We're going to speed it up. And then the run animation sucks. Man, we're close, guys. We're actually really, really close here. And then we'll put some footstep sounds in there, and suddenly it's going to be, oh, the game's going to feel so good just with footstep sounds. It's really weird for me when I have to add an empty state as the default state. It just feels really odd. It's kind of this it feels perverted. It feels like you're being naughty. It's kind of like when I turn my PC off manually. It's kind of like that. But I do it all the time. I always create empty states. Yeah, I'm sure that iPlayables is great, but we're not going to do that. But thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm going to look into it for the next game. Promise. Maybe not. Maybe promise. Maybe not. I could really go for a Zin right now, though. Let's think here. Oh, the running animation sucks. So let's do that. This is our run animation. It's really bad. All we're going to do is take our weapon. The reason I made it extreme is so that I could see it occurring. But now I'm going to go to the walk animation and just speed it up. Okay. Let's hit play. Okay, now we're going to work on the shoot animation. And then we're also going to throw in some, what would you call it? Rotate or barrel rolling of the weapon. So it's sort of doing like this. So it feels like you're more organic. Right now it feels a little bit rigid, like I'm a robot. I want it to feel organic. Okay, think about shooting a gun. How many of you have shot a gun before? Anybody shot a gun in the chat? I have shot a lot of guns because I live in South Carolina, and that's what we do. You go to church, and then you shoot guns. And in this case, in my life, when I shoot a gun, it is a instant recoil right away. And then you get some relief, right? Bam! Ugh. So don't be afraid to put that gun way up here and then bring it back down. Boom! 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 Okay? So let's do that. Cyber says a lot. Hey, Ray Castley, how are you? All right, so let's do the shoot animation. This is the most important animation. You get the recoil, right? So it's going to be like that. I'm going to turn snapping off. Really far back, okay? And then we're going to go back to that one position. Okay? So first off, we just want to see, is that recoil reasonable? Kind of. I kind of feel like it needs to go like this. We need to bring the camera, I think maybe like that. You want it to come more into the camera. The problem is our camera, we need it to clip at 0. I'm going to get rid of his eyes because those are silly. That's the silliest thing I've ever seen. Let's get rid of the silliness. And we're going to do this. So now that we have a closer position for the camera, now it can go back like this. Bam! You got to be real careful with your animations because they can feel really stupid if you're not careful. So let's see here. All right. I kind of feel like our pivot or the weapon controller itself is at an odd position. And there's got to be something I can do here to make it feel not like it's not coming out of the right side of my screen. I mean, it kind of sucks because I might have to go into the pivot and move it over. Or we could just move the weapon controller over and call it a day. You know, I could just do this. And maybe move it up a little bit. Because it feels like it's coming out of my nipples. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the weapon. Not the controller. I'm going to move the weapon and the weapon tip. There we go. Move it up closer to my shoulder. Maybe move it back a little bit. Let's take a look. I need a crosshair. Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff we need. But you're right. This feels so much better. Bam, 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 bam. Hoot. We're going to get that Quake vibe. Huh, huh, huh. Gonna feel so good with sound. Okay, let's get that animation looking good, baby. And guys, when sound comes in, it's gonna blow your freaking mind. That's where things start to change. Go up a little bit like this. Boom. Okay. Let's see how this looks really quick. We're not gonna use a second camera. Although you are right, we need typically a first-person shooter needs a second camera because we're clipping through here. But we're not gonna worry about that today. We're going to crank up our field of view. It's a little tight. So it feels more like Quake. And we'll move that, we'll move the weapon back a little bit, right? So here's our weapon. About like this. Maybe move it up a little bit more. Over a little bit more. And if we go to our weapon shoot, that's a little too much. There we go, just like that. And then we go to weapon shoot. And maybe just play with this a little bit more here. We're almost there, guys. Boom. Maybe needs to recoil a little bit. And then it's going to come down. You got to be so careful with these shoot animations. Feels like it's coming out of my nipples, yeah. Boom, that's starting to feel pretty good. We need a little bit more recoil. And then also just the shape of it. I hate the shape of it. But it's okay. We need to get the animation just right here. Okay, a little bit more. Maybe even up like that. You really want to be aggressive here. Okay, and now what we're going to do is create a bounce. So that it feels like we, our arms got like jiggly. So it comes down and then it goes back up. Pretty quick. And we're going to do it again so that it's got a jiggle effect. Okay, so watch. See? Boom, 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 boom. Let's take a look. Bam, bam, bam. What's this shadow? It's driving me nuts. I think it's my capsule collider. Y'all, it's already feeling so much better. I'm feeling Quake vibes all day. Oh no, I want to make a Quake game. What am I going to do? I don't want to make another first-person shooter, but I'm feeling really good about this. Okay. What am I saying? That hot feeling in your cheeks when you realize, oh no, I'm about to embark on a really long journey. And I don't want to do this again, Lord. I want to get out of this hellhole. Okay. What was I saying? Oh, we're making a game. Let's see here. There was a problem. What was the problem? Oh, the shadow. The shadow was driving me crazy. Yeah, this actually feels really good. I'm actually shocked. You throw in sound, it's like, bing! Get rid of this crappy mesh renderer. And also, I don't want to see a shadow. Well, I guess I'm okay with the shadow of my... No, I don't want a shadow for my gun. Let's take a look. Doom, doom. And you know what? I'm not gonna solidify the animation just yet. Because animation is highly dependent on that shape. And I don't know what the gun shape is going to be just yet. We may have a tilt available to us for our camera. Let's double check. We have our player controller here. The camera weight. Kind of feel like that jump animation is a little annoying along with the land animation. If I set the camera weight faster, that feels a little bit better actually. I'm going to keep the camera weight the way it is. Camera tilt, let's take a look. Tilt is one of those things, man, that can really piss people off. But it feels good to me. I had a report during beta testing that they didn't like certain aspects of Twisted Tower because it made them nauseous. And it doesn't even have tilt in it, you know. But it's just one of those things you want to be able to turn off in the options. But we're going to keep it. I'm already getting a little nauseous. Do we have head bob? Oh, field of view. So the normal field of view we're going to do, when we run, it's 6. We're going to do 70. 70 is normal movement. And then if we go to our character controller here, we're going to change the field of view to, when we run, 80. And the change speed needs to be slow. Let's see. Hoot, hoot. Man, that's feeling really good, y'all. That trigger for shooting is bothering me. And it's because I can't transition to myself. Weapon shoot. Interruption source. I'm sorry. Let's go to shoot here. That should be good. 0 exit time, 0 transition. I think that'll help me able to shoot much more here. Let's see. What's the shoot delay? Let's double check. I want it to be much faster. So again, guys, we're just fine tuning all the animation here really quick, just to make the gun feel really heavy and weighty. We have a shooting issue where I can't shoot every freaking second. I want it to be like a 0 cooldown. So for some reason, I can't spam shoot. And we're going to figure out why. I'm going to set it to 0.05 for the shoot cooldown. And we're going to figure out what's going on with the animator here. If I bring the game view over here, this is a really helpful trick. Watch the animator and see what's going on. Okay, so this needs to have an interruption source of next. There we go. Bam, 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 bam. Bam, 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 bam. You want full control. You don't want the player limited. Not really. You might want the player limited if you're making like Resident Evil, you're making Dark Souls, but if you're making a game like this, you want the player to have full freaking control. Okay, here we go. Look at that. Boom, 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 boom. Now, obviously, it's a little high. When I'm shooting a gun, it's not, oh, daddy. It's this. So we need it to go more towards the shoulder than less towards the sky. Okay. So let's go ahead and go to our pivot here. Go to shoot. We don't want it so freaking high. Let's bring game over here so we can see it. And we're going to make the rotation 0 for now, along with the transforms. It's going to be more like this. And then go very far back. And we're going to make sure we're set to the local. Pull back like this. Boom. And then it's going to come forward. Boom. Forward. Yep. Let's see how that feels. Are we going to post this video on YouTube? Yeah, I'm going to make a supercut from this. If it doesn't look good in the abstract, guys, it's not going to look good at all. So we gotta get it looking perfect right now before we throw any models in. I'm trying to think this through. I'm going to kind of guess and check my way through this. I'm going to go further back and then up. Boom, boom, boom. So it goes forward and down. And then it's going to go up and out. It's feeling a little bit better. It's okay. It's moving to the right a little bit too much, which is really odd. That's what I was trying to say about the shape of a gun and the animation. It's always going to be kind of weird, because when you get that close to the camera, things start looking really weird. Yes, there we go. And I love that little jiggle effect. We'll go pretty close here. Fast, speed it up. And then we'll do some screen shake. Okay, so it doesn't need to go to the left that much. But yeah, that's the idea. Okay. Shoot. Move it over down like this. Boom. Okay, and we're going to make it hold a little bit here. Maybe like this. And maybe even potentially, you just want it to have a few more seconds on screen so the player can see it. Boom, boom, boom. I don't even know if that's going to be enough. We will add Z rotation. I want to get these values right. You know, it's starting to feel like Metroid. The shoot animation is tough. It really is, but we're going to get it just right, I promise. This is bothering me. And it goes to 0. Let's do this. Hang tight, y'all. We're going to get there. I want to get the basic rudimentary values in place. So that right there feels weird. So let's figure out the rudimentary values first. So we kind of have to go back to ground 0 here. All these values we don't need. All I want to do is just go back, okay? Let's just make it go back. Yes, Thomas. Basic rudimentary values. And what I mean by that is get the abstract done first before trying to get it super, all the other rotation values. That's why I wasn't doing any Z rotation or barrel rolling, because it wasn't working in the abstract anyway. No amount of abstract or fine tuning of an animation is going to work if it sucks to begin with. So this should look really, really good, actually. Yeah. Probably need to speed it up. Bam, 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 bam. Bam, 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 bam. It's kind of like phallic, but I mean, aren't all FPSs? Or is that just me? And we're going to do a little bit of jiggling here. We're going to make it really bouncy. Boom. And then one more value up here. Boom. Up, forward. Then back one. A little bit more. And then that. Boom. Look at that jiggling. And then we'll rotate it a little bit so it doesn't look so weird. It kind of looks like it's being clipped away. Bam, 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 bam. Bam, 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 bam. Boom, 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 boom. That feels good. Very jiggly. Very juicy. I'm going to save this. We're going to go to weapon, shoot, and then rotate it up. That's all we're going to do. Just a rotation up. And then down. And then up. I feel like there's something wrong with the pivot. But I think we might be okay. Let's take a look. I think that's good enough. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom. Probably needs to go back a little bit more. Oh man, it's so funny when you start to when it's so fast, you got to be so careful. Right? Take a look. I don't think that rotation's as necessary as I think it is. We're going to not worry about that rotation so much. Bring it forward a little bit. Oh man, that rotation's pissing me off. Hold on. Go back to 0. Hang on. Take a look. Yeah, I think what we're going to do is fine tune that animation once we get a model in there. Pow, 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 pow. Pow, 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 pow. Do you know what we need? We need sound. You guys ready to add some sound? Step. I told you this was going to take a while. Step 3. Step 3. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My numbers were wrong here. Hold on. There we go. So we have actually 9 steps here for great juice. Number 4. Footstep sounds, jump sounds, landing sounds, shoot sounds. It's all going to be in the animator. This is the beauty of this is why a lot of you probably say, well, Thomas, don't use animated trees, use physics-based animation, or let the scripts control when sounds emit. I like having control in the animator. This is kind of the way I make games. I like to have control in the animator, and the way that I have control in the animator is I use something called an animator functions script. It's right here. Okay, this animator function script can play all sorts of cool sounds. It can do a bunch of cool stuff. I had Claude put this one together. I usually write my own. I did for Twisted Tower. I had Claude put this one together in 5 seconds today. And all it does is just plays random sounds. That's about it. It's just these functions here. There's also screen shake. We'll talk about that in a second. I think that's in the list here. You know what? Before we move into sounds, and Jordy, he's editing this. Jordy, just show the screen shake getting added really quick here. I'm going to add my screen shake. It's just a simple screen shake class that Claude wrote in like 10 seconds. And this is going to be, it's really cool because basically I have all these different, let's see here. If we go to the player controller, I have all these different screen shake presets. So I can do a small, medium, or large. It's just going to shake the screen a little bit. And I can fire this from the shoot, right? So if I go to creating an animation event here, go to my animator functions, I have a screen shake here, screen shake small, right? So let's hit play and see if that looks good. Boom. Yeah, that's pretty good. And I can tweak these values if you want to see it for full clarity here. If we want to tweak these values, we can, but that actually looks really good. And I'm not joking. Claude wrote that in 5 seconds. And it works great. Nice and juicy. I don't really want to screen shake for jumping because it would get really annoying, honestly. I've done that before and it's annoying. Slop code is such a it's hard to even describe. Of course Claude is going to spit out slop code, but a lot of stuff in Unity, it's rudimentary stuff like this. It's like, okay, play some sounds. It's one-off functions, helper functions. That stuff, I'm not going to write this from scratch anymore. I have for all my commercial games. I know how to write in C#. This stuff, just throw it together really quick. So yeah, Claude did a great job putting that together. That screen shake actually looked really good. I think what I want to do now is move back into sound. So Jordy, we're going to get back into sound here. And Jordy's my editor. Sorry, guys. I'm talking to Jordy in the future. Okay. Anyway, sounds, right? Let's go ahead and jump into Artlist.io. I don't recommend you use Artlist.io. Artlist.io is very expensive. I'm using it now for Twisted Tower because I've kind of got myself into a little situation where I have to continue using Artlist.io, despite the fact that it's very expensive. I've used it for so long that I'm sort of stuck at this point. But we're gonna use Artlist.io. I know I'm not sharing my screen. Hang tight. Big mistake that a lot of game developers make is that because they're making a game that looks really simple, they feel like they need to use simple sounds. No. Why? What? Sound is the time to cheat, right? So we're going to use big crunchy rifle sounds. We're not going to use a laser. Pew, pew, pew. No. I'm going to use a big fat gun sound. Let's just type in gunshot here. And we're going to create variations of this. We'll have like 4 or 5 of them. Now I want to show you guys a trick. Okay, and the trick is to add various sound effects on top of this to make it sound like more is actually going on, right? That's it. No wonder I've downloaded that sound. That's a good sound. We're going to open up this in Audacity, and I want to show you guys a trick. This is probably going to be the most valuable trick from this video. You're an indie developer, right? You don't have time to animate Ricochet. You don't have time to even determine if Ricochet actually happened. You don't have time to make gun shells and sparks and hands moving and squeezing the gun. So what you do is you add that to the sound effects and you trick the player into thinking more is going on. So watch this. Gunshot, we're going to go to shell gun bounce. There is no gun shell sound for, it doesn't even matter. I don't care. I don't want it to be a shell. I want it to be a gun casing or like a metal piece bounce. I'm going to come up with some weird reasoning here. I don't care. It's some cool gun. Shell casing bounce. No, there would be. Yeah, like if I was shooting a 30-06 or a 308, you're going to get a shell. Let's do bullet. Shell. Bounce. There we go. Now I want to show you guys this. This is so valuable, okay? Hang tight. This is going to be very, very important. I'm going to open up this sound. And what we're going to do is create a bunch of cool layers here to create a few variations of this bullet, this shooting. So here we go. I can't hear it, and the reason why is because I need to go to playback device. This one. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to move it over here. But Thomas, then I'm going to have to instantiate a prefab of a bouncing shell. No, you don't. Nobody knows. I just want one. Okay, that's good enough. I want this to be at -10, okay? I want all my sounds to be at -10. I don't love that sound, to be honest. Let's do a little bit of a... For this one, we're going to do a generic one. The bouncing, I don't like. I don't like that sound. If I have to hear that even once every 5 shots, it's going to annoy me. But the idea is to add a bunch of sounds here to make things more textured. So let's go ahead and add a new sound here, or a new folder called sounds. And I'm going to go to my gunshots folder here. I'm just going to call it guns, actually. And it's going to be shoot 1. It's a wave. And again, it's at -10. Watch this. I'm going to add another ricochet sound. Why not? But Thomas, I'm not actually hitting anything. Who cares? I don't care. I don't care if it's realistic. It feels good. Lower the pitch because we want it to be choo 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 choo. Maybe a little bit more. Lower this volume. That's number 2. What about like steam, smoke, or embers? Right? I don't know what's going on there. Do I care? No. We're just going to make it sound cool. A metallic crunching. Metal Gear crunch. Like a... You just want all these textures, right? And the player kind of fills in the gaps. So that we got that second sound. We'll see if that works. I'm going to add a little bit of texture to this one. Increase the pitch so it has maybe 2 voices. And we're going to do gunshot 3. Maybe do another ricochet. So there's that. And then we're going to go to our another ricochet, some other ricochet sound. Chong-ting! Chong-ting! Now, obviously, if you guys were making a full-on game, full-on commercial game, probably eventually want to program in there some cool hit sounds and ricochet sounds. But for the purposes of this, we're just going to get it done really quick. That's it. Oh, man, I love that. Let's bring that in. That's it, baby. I love that. And so you're going to hear that maybe every 4th shot and export. Let's see if these gunshot sounds work for us, okay? So all we're going to do here is go to our pivot. And if we go to shoot here, you can see that we have a ability to add a play random sounds 1. And all that does is we can add random sounds to our animator functions here. In this case, it's right here. The audio source is going to come through the player sounds. There we go. It's a game object that has an audio source on it. That's all it is. And it's 2D. It's not 3D. And that's great because you don't want sounds coming from the gun. You want them playing all the time. And a 2D sound is actually stereo. A 3D sound is one-dimensional. I'm sorry, it's mono. And the reason it's mono is because it's only coming from one side, right? But a 2D sound, when you set it to 2D in the audio source, it's going to be stereo. And that's great because we can have all this texture. All right, where are our sounds? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see how it sounds. Already this game is going to feel like 10 times better. Ready? Here we go. Did you hear that crunch there? I just filled in the gaps. In my brain, I was like, oh, it's there's like a smoke came out of it and there's a strap on the gun. Right? Hey, I'm going to create one more. And in this case, it's just going to be a subtle, like, military bag straps. Something like that. Like a clink, clink, clink sound. There it is. I just want all these sounds and textures moving, telling me that the player is, heavy and has a lot of gear. I'm going to grab this here. This I'm going to make the pitch lower and reduce its volume significantly. And then we can also, for the footsteps, I'm going to add these sounds in as well. The Foley. Reduce that. And then I'm going to make this probably higher to like 15. No, that's too much. How about 7? Good. And then we're going to go to our shoot 5. So we have 5 different sounds. And for our running, and we're going to do this in a sec, you can imagine the sound of military boots. You can imagine the sound of your gear. You can imagine. So we're going to do all of that, but let's get the shooting done, okay? One more sound for our shooting. You guys ready? You don't hear anything? Here. You don't hear that? I'm sorry. That's pretty great. Has Thomas Brush mastered the idea of juice? For first-person shooters, maybe. I mean, I think I'd give myself maybe a B- or a B. We're getting there. Okay, so you hear it. Sounds good. You guys want to go ahead and do the footstep sounds. This is going to be interesting. Same sort of process. I want the sound of military boots. I would say that one of the reasons why Hollow Knight is like a freaking plus is because the feet are and it reverbs through the caves, It just even the footsteps sound amazing. So I want to do a footstep on gravel. Some kind of gravel, but Thomas, it doesn't look like gravel. I don't care. We're filling in the gaps with audio. By gaps, I mean gaps with time, gaps with financing, money, budget. We don't have an artist. We don't have the talent. Nope. Nope. I want to hear. You'll know it when you hear it. I'm going to do footstep stone. I really need a stone sound. And then we'll fill it in with gravel as well. That's what we want. Yeah, that was great. This is really what I want. I want to hear the sound of. The first thing I do is I think about the texture of the shoe, And then the second thing I do is I think about the texture of the floor. The texture of the shoe is going to be that rubber, right? But I also might want to hear a little bit of leather in there. So a squeaking of the leather. But let's see how this sounds first. Let's just get some really good sounds here. You'll know it when you hear it. That's good. There you go. There we go. Okay, we got 5. Actually, I really like that one over this one. Okay. 5 sounds for the sneaker hitting the floor. And then what we're going to do is footstep, gravel, and mix it in with some gravel sounds. I actually really like that one. That's the one. In fact, I think I use that for Twisted Tower as well. Okay. You guys ready? Let me turn this up for you. All right. Let's throw in the sound of gravel. So we're getting a mix of impulse, a strong impulse, boom, ba, beep, ba, ba, right? But then we have texture happening on the sides. Okay, that's it. We're going to fade each one out. You don't need to fade them in because it's an impulse, right? We don't care about the impulse. We care about the tail. And then we're going to add in a bunch of straps and squeaks. Here we go. Oh, guys, this is going to sound so good, I promise. I cannot wait for you to hear how footsteps and the sound of footsteps makes a first-person controller feel so much more real. You feel like you're in that world. Okay, so here we go. We have a bunch of cool straps and stuff. Okay, so we're just going to put all of these here. We don't want it on every single one. You want to be very careful doing that because that can get really annoying. But just a few. Put that one there. And don't be afraid of letting it have a long tail. It's okay. I love to play games. I love to make them too. Would some of these techniques work with a rail shooter? Yeah, absolutely. Why not? All right, I'm going to merge all these together, baby. Hey, you know what? Half-Life, I love Half-Life because it has a little bit of a squeak. So sneaker squeak. It's like a wheat every like 5th one. I love to make games. There we go. I love that sound. I want to use more of these. Oh, guys, these are going to be perfect. I love that scuff sound. I want to make games for the rest of my life. And you don't want it every time. You just want it on that one. That one's good. Right here. And that's about it. That one's too loud. And I really only want that one. Okay. Merge all these together, right? Make sure they're -10. One of those sounds like a jump sound, if I'm being honest. But we're going to go ahead and export the current selection as a wave. And we're going to call this is going to be the player folder. Not player. Playert. Player. I love making sounds. This is going to be step 1. Step 2. And notice how I'm exporting the current selection. Don't be afraid to grab that tail. See? That's totally fine. Having all that texture happening almost randomly. It is random. Having that texture happen randomly as you're running makes you feel like you're a person and you're not just feet. Okay, good. Grab it right at the impulse there. You don't want too much at the front end that's empty, because then it doesn't feel reactive, right? I love that little buckle sound. So let's see how this sounds, guys. Watch how easy it is to implement this sound. Are you ready? Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into our pivot here. Does anybody have any questions, by the way? You should put a shooter and a rail shooter together. Let's see here. Any other questions, guys? Anybody have any questions? But let's go ahead. Let me know in the chat if you have any questions. Let's go ahead and go to our walk. And what? Boom or boom? Where does the sound occur? It should start at the beginning, because I want to hear a sound the moment I start running. So it's going to be play random sound 1. Play random sound 2. So this is walking. I'm going to adjust this animation a little bit. But let's go ahead and put the player steps in here. There we go. Step 4. Ah, Thomas, what are you doing? Step 4. Thomas, what are you doing? There we go. Okay, let's save it. Take a look. Can you record instruments in Audacity? Of course you can. So obviously it's too slow, right? Unless I'm like a mech. Let's go ahead and make sure that we can have volume associated with this. Please, Mr. Cloud, please add volumes for each random sound function. They should be variables defined in the inspector, not parameters in the functions. And the reason why is because you can't have that many parameters in an animator timeline event. For some reason, I don't know why. So they're going to appear up here, and then we can just, or near the array here. Yes, of course. I got a quick question. Do you like games? Not really. I don't play games. I haven't played a video game in a while. Okay. Just want to make them. Okay, so the walk animation is interesting. What you want it to do is you want it to almost feel like you're a bouncy ball. Okay, so right now it's kind of soft, right? The way you make it look like a bouncy ball is right now it's smoothing on both sides of the curve. Okay, you see this? Instead, what you want is you want it to feel like it's bouncing. So look, watch. Now that's the wrong way, okay? So what we're going to do is actually do this. We're going to make this broken. There we go. He's got a bouncy vibe to him. Maybe not so bouncy, but like something like that. So that should do. Oh, right, volumes. Let's go ahead and get this set up properly here. Copy, paste, boom, there we go. Now we have volumes associated with each random sound. So they should probably appear below each one. There it is. Yep. Okay, so now we have these volumes, right? So if I want the walk sound and the run sound to be less intense than the shooting sound, I can set it to 0.5. Okay, so let's listen. Okay. It needs to be faster and softer. So what I'm going to do, this is going to be interesting. You got to be so, do not underestimate the value of being really, really neurotic about your animations. That walk animation, it felt cool, right? But just because it felt cool doesn't mean it felt right. We're going to make it feel right. So I'm actually going to invert these. I want me to come off of my foot. There we go. And then he comes up and then back down. So we need to do this. Go back to our curves and fix this. Right? Let's think. Boing, boing. Yep. Okay. Probably needs to be faster too, if I'm being honest. And that's kind of sprinting, actually. There we go. There we go. Okay. This is from Fox 8. How do you make the player know what ground goes over, like stones, planks, if you don't have one ground material? You need 2 ways to detect changing surfaces. Number 1, tags. Why? Certain objects, like for example, let's just say that this was a blend model right here. Oh, that sounds good. This might be a giant refrigerator, right? Instead of having to go in and say, hey, if I'm stepping on the refrigerator texture, play a refrigerator sound or a linoleum sound, I could just tag it as linoleum. But there's also terrain, right? Or if I'm walking on a Pro Builder mesh with a variety of different surface textures, I might just say, you know, I've got 10 surface textures that I use on terrain, and I also use them on Pro Builder. I've got linoleum, I've got marble. So you might have a raycast that looks for the texture below and then plays a sound based on the texture. So tag-based and texture-based sounds for footsteps is what I do. It's a little fast. So let's slow that down. Does that make sense? Let me know if that didn't make sense. I'll try and explain it better. I think 0.3 is fine. I'm going to copy this and go to sprint. And it's going to be faster. Whoa, what the F? I kind of hate that. Hold on. That curve sucks. There we go. Okay, that is our run. But we're going to speed the crap out of that. There's our sprint. And you notice the curve gets screwed up, so you want to make sure you're giving that nice bouncy look. There we go. Hey, Jude, don't make it bad. Put it here. Speed it up. There we go. Go to our walk. Ah, that looks like crap. Hold on. You take a sad song and make it better. I don't think we need it to be that bouncy. There we go. All right, let's hit play and take a look. Okay, glad that makes sense. Okay. Jump sound. Really quick, not hard. That sounds like a jump. Okay. So we're just going to take these and just do a variety of different pitches for each one. We'll do some belt buckles as well. And then bring this leather in here. Hang on one sec, guys. Okay, sorry. So we're just going to take these various belt sounds, right? And just put them as little delays. That sounds great, Thomas. All right. I'm telling you guys, just listen to me. All right, jump 1. That's good. Oh, I love to play with sounds. That sounded great. It feels really weighty, doesn't it? Whoops! And then this. That is a little too loud at the end there, so it's faded out. And by the way, if you guys are wondering how to voice act jump sounds or hurt sounds or anything like that, it starts by hitting yourself. And it pushes the air out and it feels real, feels aggressive. And it's always about that impulse. You want it to sound like an impulse, right? Okay, let's go ahead and set up that jump. So this is run. Here's jump. And it's going to be place random sound. What? 3. Thomas, it's so unprofessional, and it's clearly you're a noob at coding because you're using these random sound 1, random sound 2 arrays. Why don't you just do it all in one function? You can't, for some reason, in Unity. When it comes to events, you can't create these complex functions for events. I don't know why, but you just can't. Maybe Unity's changed it since, but I kind of hurt myself. I feel like I'm having a heart attack. But yeah, let's do this. There we go. We're all set for the jumping. And let's see how it sounds. All right, so we need a separate function. I need a separate function called jump sound, play jump sounds, just like play random sound, but it requires the player to have a velocity that is positive, not negative. Sadly, we need that because what's happening is we're getting a jump sound. I don't mind the jump effect or the jump animation playing when I fall. I don't know if I do. Let's double check here, actually. Actually, no. We're going to stop this here. Never mind. For some reason, the player, and I know exactly why, the player is setting jump to true when he's falling. He should only play the jump animation if he presses the jump button, honestly. Let's change the condition to require the jump button to set the animator jump bool to true. Let's think here. Yeah, I think that's fine. Let's do that. So it's gonna get that solved for us. Let's move through the sounds here. Land sound. So I'm gonna go to this. All of these are great for landing. Honestly, those are fine. I just don't want the scuff to be gone. Let's find a body thud. I'm going to stick with Unity probably till I die. I feel like these are fine. So let's call this land 1, right? You really don't need that many land sounds. It's just such one of those things that it's not super important, I don't think. That scuffing is really annoying. All right, export that as land sound 3. Good. Okay, let's go to our land random sound 4. Good, we have enough here. That's great. This is going to be land 1, land 2, and land 3. I guarantee you we're going to get weird stuff with landing because you're going to hear that sound happening all the time, but it doesn't look like you're landing, and that's because it's barely playing the land animation. So it's going to be very frustrating seeing this play out. But let's at least feel it out here, and let's take a look at what Claude came up with here. Perfect to found the issue in weapon controller 70, line 70, the jump animation being set to true whenever the player is not grounded or has a positive velocity. This causes the jump animation to play when falling. Let me fix this. So what did you do? Added jump button, pressed boolean to track. Good. That's great. All right. So let's hit apply there. It's going to apply all this stuff for us. Let's at least feel this out, though, with the landing. Man, we need more thud sounds, unfortunately. Yeah, let's do that. We're gonna throw this one on there. Sadly, we just need a little bit more Foley for the landing. Primarily because it sounds too much like we really want it to be as close as possible to that impulse there, because there's already a delay that I don't love in the code. There we go. But we could delay this one. So big impulse at the beginning and then delay. Yes. Okay. I'm just going to export this one here. So that's going to be our land 1 and replace it. Good. And then I'm going to tweak the pitch of this. Okay, good. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. That's late. I just love making games. I'm having such a good time. I love when you guys show up. Thank you so much for being here. I'm just having a blast. And then I'm going to grab this, bring it over here. And that's all we need, guys. Step or land 3. Now, what did Claude come up with? Let's double check here. Jump button pressed. That should work. Let's double check. And also, let's see if those land sounds are going to be better. An engine is a tool. And what you do with it, choose an engine that you like. I agree. Okay, that screwed up everything. Claude, you screwed up, dude. You screwed up, and I don't like it. Let's double check something here. I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna have the jump sound only play. That's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna separate out the jump sound from the animator functions and have it actually occur when I press the jump button. I think that's totally fine. But let's double check something here. That feels so good. I feel so heavy. Oh man, I win. That feels so good. Okay, but let's reduce the volume of the landing. It's a little aggressive. I kind of like the jump sound being aggressive. Let's do this. Let's just go ahead and ignore Claude because sometimes he's not very smart. And we're gonna do this. We're gonna create a public audio clip array. It's gonna be jump sounds, and this is going to be playing from the player controller. Actually, why are you doing it in the weapon controller? It's fine. Let's see here. Audio settings. Good. There we go. This is going to be sounds played when the player jumps. Jump sounds are going to play when the jump occurs. Is there a function for jumping? It's right here. Is grounded, blah, blah, blah. Velocity equals -5. Let's figure out where the jumping has occurred. Get button down. Boom, 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 boom. Yep. So really, you only want it to happen when this is going to be the player sounds. Player sounds dot play one shot. We're going to do random dot range 0 all the way through the jump sounds length. Yeah. And obviously you want it to be here. Jump sounds array. Boom. Boom. Ooh. There we go. So it's going to play those sounds. But also I kind of want it to be at a volume of 0.5. No. 0.8. Yeah. Make sure you close that out as well. So that's good. What that means is we're not going to play a jump sound from the animator. So let's go ahead and go to our jump, and I'm going to remove that. Got an error here. Okay, let's go back, and then we're going to add those jump sounds to the player controller, not that animator. Okay, and the reason why we're doing this is because we don't want the player, we don't want weird jump sounds happening when the player isn't really jumping, but maybe they play that jump animation when they fall or something, but I don't want that sound playing. I don't know what this is. Okay. So I'm going to remove this one. And then we're going to go to our player controller here. So the jumping is going to be really controlled independently. The jump effects are controlled independently. And I gotta say, every time I make a game, I do this. And I don't know if it's because I'm smart or dumb. But let's see how it feels. No, I can see you, True Play. Oh, that feels so good. I kind of feel like I feel like that's pretty good, you know? Let's think, are there any other sounds that we need here? Let's double check. Okay. You know what we need next? We need sounds for the enemies, right? And for death for the enemies. Is Artlist expensive for indie devs? Yeah, they're gonna charge you like crazy numbers. If you actually release your game, it's a whole thing. All right, so we need these enemies to play a death sound, but also a looping sound as they approach you. Let's do it. Okay. So let's get two sounds. Well, two sound groups. Let me see really quick. I gotta text my wife really quick. Flesh, blood, splatter. So we're gonna get like 5. Ugh. 5 blood splatter. You also want a flesh hit sound. You want blood to splatter everywhere. But we want a flesh hit. Right? That's great. That's the one, baby. That's another good one. These are all hit sounds, and then we're going to have death sounds. Okay? There's a difference. Hit sounds, death sounds. Monster growl. Let's do that. Let's just... I want a monster growl sound for now. And we're going to change the... we don't want these to die immediately. So I'm going to go to my enemy here, make sure his health is set to 10. That means the player controller, we need to make sure his attack is not so strong. Yeah, it's set to 100. It needs to be something like 50. Actually, no. We're going to set it to 10. And then we're going to set the enemy health to 20. So these are like the easy enemies, right? So let's double check and make sure this occurs. So you're going to get 2 sounds. A death sound or a hurt sound. Good. Good. You know, what really helps you, guys, this side note about sound, is to go shoot guns. Go to a shooting range, shoot guns, and you're going to feel it, it's something that happens when you're shooting guns. You're very hyper aware because you feel tense, and you should. You're hyper aware, you feel tense, you feel like there's a lot of mistakes that can happen. It's dangerous. So your ears and your eyes are hypersensory. And so you feel and you hear and you smell everything. And so you want to make sure, even like the ricochet off of a tree or the sound of a bird or the echo or the way the wind hits your ear, like all that stuff you hear. And so it's good to go and shoot some guns to feel how this should feel. Okay, let's go ahead and get the hit sounds. So I'm going to just close all this out here. And these are just flesh hit sounds. Now, does this mean an enemy isn't going to make a sound when they get hurt? No. They're gonna, you know. Okay, maybe some blood splatter. We want a subtle splatter sound. There we go. But it's totally okay to have it make almost a double effect. That's okay. I don't know why that feels good. It's always felt good. I do that all the time. I'll do like a double hit sound. Let's just do some growl sounds. And we're going to do a obvious, a pitch. And we just memorize what this is. So we're going to do maybe -8. And then we're going to do a reverb. Let's just go ahead and get them out of the way. Grab a couple of these. We're going to grab all of those. And this is what's interesting with weird, like creepy sort of demonic enemies. Obviously you're going to, let's add a compressor really quick. You're obviously going to want, and also a limiter. You're obviously going to want to add that pitch shift below or go lower. So like -8. Right? But you can also add a layer of reverb, which is a really nice touch. I found this to be really nice. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, you're missing something. When it comes to Artlist, yeah, you're missing something. They're going to charge you more than $5,000 to actually launch your game to get the proper license. Yeah, you're missing something. Unless you're not talking about Artlist. This is too long. There we go. Good. Okay, we're going to grab these. These are the hit sounds. These are not death sounds. That one sounds great. Mix all these together. This was a little delayed. Okay. It's a little trebly, if I'm being honest. Yeah, read the fine print of Artlist. If you want to launch a commercial game, it's different than what it looks like. Okay, let's go ahead and make all this -10. Okay. There it is, -10. Okay. So these are all going to be the enemy hurt sounds. And guys, if it looks like I know exactly what I'm doing, it's because I do. All right, moving forward. No, but seriously, like this stuff, I just know this like a back of my hand because I've been working on Twisted Tower and I know how everything functions and works. So I know I need a hurt sound. I know I need a death sound. And I also know what I would do if this was a full-on game is I'd have hit sounds, like flesh hit sounds. And then I would have enemy voices getting hurt. And then I would have enemy death. And then I would have blood splatter. But we're just going to merge all those into 2 categories, hurt and death. That's great. That one's really good. We're just going to do 4 of them. Whoops. Let's just do 4 of them, guys. And then we're going to do a death sound as well. Okay. That one clipped. That one clipped. Hold on. Okay, we're going to take all of those, mix them together, compressor, maybe throw a limiter. I don't think we need a limiter. Okay, so you have a longer tail for the death. It sounds a little bit more extreme, right? The things I do for you guys. Change the pitch. And then do a reverb. Right? Okay, and then blood splatter. Big blood splatter. So obviously you want the impact sound, right? And then this needs to be lower. It's way too sharp. Yeah, and then you want just a bunch of blood splatter on the ground. Okay, that's good. Let's see, there we go. We're gonna do a lower one here. Almost like the blood sprayed out and then it's hitting something later. Where is the really wet blood? I can't find it. There we go. This is a great sound. I love this one. We need a little bit more blood there. I need more blood. Where's the blood? Hold on. That's the one. Yeah, just having as much of this stuff as you can. Oh, that sounded like Bilbo. Mix all this together, baby. Oh, Thomas, you're clipping. It's okay. There we go. Okay, that's all we need. We're not done yet. Where are my effing sounds? And then also this one as well. There we go. That one's what we wanted. Do you see how the tail is what makes this effective? Fade it out, and we're just going to copy that one over just to here. But we also need a little bit of like an explosion. Actually, you know what we need? We need bone cracking. Right? There we go. We'll do it lower. A lower pitched one. We're almost there, guys. And then we'll have these death sounds working for us. Nope, wrong. Turn that up. Track, mix and render. Boom, there we go. We're gonna do a limiter because we don't want any peaking. Whoops. But I need an anime explosion or an anime hit sound. Like an anime punch or something. Some aggressive. That's it. This sound is great. I don't even care if I'm making a horror game or whatever. We'll do a lower one here. And look, you could do a delay, watch. See? Isn't that cool? Watch this. That one will go lower. Guys, that delay, 1, 2, something's fun about it. Pa-pa! Da-da! Doo-doo! All right. We're going to do a limiter just to be sure. Okay, let's export these out. These are the death sounds. Too loud though. There we go. All right. This is enemy death or enemy die 1. Whoops. This is enemy die 2, right? And this is enemy die 3. You guys ready? We're going to have these 2 sound effects playing. Let's double check though with Copilot. If the player shoots the enemy, it should play a hurt sounds array from the player controller hurt or enemy enemy audio source. It should also play the death sounds. Why are we playing the death sounds out of the player controller? Because when the enemy dies, it destroys, right? So we're not going to play a sound through the enemy. Randomly from the player controller enemy audio source as well. Also allow me a volume for the sound playing. It's a terrible prompt, but it'll get us what we need. I'm going to double check everything, make sure everything sounds good with the death sounds. I didn't like that one. That felt good. This one I need to edit. It's a little too delayed. Yeah, let's fix that one. Yeah, that one is really not working for me. Track, mix and render. Drop down the volume. That's it. So while Claude does his magic, that is hurt or die 1. Good. Yay. Okay, what is he saying here? Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and open up the enemy script. We also need those hurt sounds in the audio settings for the player controller. And then also play enemy hurt sounds and death sounds in the player controller as well. Its own little functions here, and that should be good to go. Got to make sure that we fix these errors. What do we got? Enemy hurt clip. What is this? What is this crap? This is what happens when you rely on Claude. Good grief. What are you doing? Okay. Enemy sounds. Enemy hurt sounds is going to be an array, random range. 0 all the way to enemy hurt sounds dot length. Right? There we go. So that should play the enemy hurt sound. It's going to do a random one. And honestly, that needs to be in the frickin' enemy script. It's right here. What is this? Oh my word. Terrible code. That's exactly what happens. I should have known better. All right. This is going to be player controller dot instance dot enemy sounds dot play one shot. Enemy hurt sounds, which is clips from the player controller. And then, yeah, there we go. Okay, so it's going to play the hurt sounds, and then it's also going to play the what's going on here? What was happening? Oh, yeah. It's also going to play the death sounds as well. So enemy sounds. I'm going to call this enemy audio source because that is getting confusing. It's going to be right here. Yeah. And this is going to be player audio source. We're going to get a couple errors here, but we're going to be all right. Then those are the sounds. Good, 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 good. Player hurt clip. That should be player hurt sound. I hate that word clip. It's not my favorite. This is going to be player audio source. If that doesn't equal, good, good, good. Player hurt sound. I'm just cleaning up the, yeah. The variable names are driving me crazy. Okay. Other errors here. This is going to be play enemy hurt sound. No, don't need that crap. What in the world? This is going to be player audio source. Good. Okay, that's good and clean. Let's go to our enemy here. Double check. This is going to be our enemy audio source. Good. Good. That's all set. Yay. Okay, so we should play the hurt sound here and the death sound. There's the hurt sound. Yeah, this needs to be an else. Bang, right? So we get hurt. If the damage is not lower than 0 or equal to 0, play the hurt sound. Otherwise, play the death sound. And it's being played from the player controller, so we're not going to have a problem. Okay. No, it's just length. It depends, you know. Yeah, it's just length. Okay, what do we got? There's our death sounds. Thomas, why are these being stored in the player controller? They should be stored in the enemy because it's a super simple game, okay? That's why. Oh, these are the die ones here. And yes, they are going to be played out of a 2D audio source. Why? Because you want to make sure that the player really gets a good sound. You want them to hear it. You always want them to hear the sound of a hurt or a death, no matter how far away the enemy is. That's my opinion. Now, I don't know if the audio sources are correct here, but we're going to double check something here. Okay, we're getting a null reference exception. Let's double click it here. Enemy hurt sounds is not being defined currently. There it is. Okay, there's player sounds. This is going to be called the player audio source, not player sounds. What was I even thinking? Player audio source and enemy audio source. Look how clean everything is, though. I love this. Make sure we apply the changes here. Hit play and take a look. Hey Thomas, I love your stuff. Are you done? Are you going to be doing any more of your Hollow Knight workshop you were doing? The final results of that are we're getting a null reference exception here. What is that? The final results of that are going to be in a final video that's being edited by my editor right now. You probably need to assign the enemy audio source variable to the player controller. I thought I did. Apparently I didn't. Okay. Player hurt sound? Why is that one? Oh, we haven't done it yet. That's why. Okay, so it's not playing the right sounds for some reason. It's because of this. So that's death sounds. We need these death sounds. And they're not loud enough as well. And I'm not sure why. We're going to double check something here. And that's why you always want to that's why you always want to export your sounds at negative 10 dB so that you have a constant volume for all of your sounds. And then you can diagnose in Unity what's wrong with the volume. Typically, that's the goal, is what's going on in Unity. Okay, I'm not seeing any issues with that. What about here? That sucks. So for some reason, it's just really quiet. We're going to do it at 1.1 or 1.4. Ideally, we would solve this on the audio side. I just don't know why that would be the case. Let's take a look here. And what I mean is solve the volume in the clip itself. But it's super loud here. So I'm curious what's going on here. I don't know. Let's hit play. Now, there's a problem here, and I want you guys to think about, why is it that it doesn't feel very effective? Why is it that I can't hear the sound? Well, that's because you need a delay. You want a very subtle delay. So this is something that Copilot's going to handle very well. I'm going to tell it to make the highlighted functions have a 0.3 or 0.2f second delay before the sound plays. Yes, use an IEnumerator, and be sure to change the function call to be a start coroutine in the take damage function. Thomas, just write that by hand. No, thank you. All right, we're going to let that do that. And that, by the way, guys, if you're curious about how Claude can help, you definitely don't have to use it. I'm going to maybe not use it for my next commercial game. It's really great for live streaming, though, because I don't have to think through how to write the code. I just let it write. But it could be really helpful in the sense that you have it being written on the back end. You can go in and work on your art. And then when it's done, you go, okay, let's take a look. And then you open it up and there it is, right? That looks good to me. So now we have these IEnumerators that are doing a delay for us. Good. My hope is that the coroutine doesn't get screwed up on death. We may need to start the coroutine from the player controller. I'm not sure. I doubt we're going to hear the sound because the coroutine is going to get killed. So let's double check. Yeah, you really do need to know how to code. Yep. Okay, so the death sound isn't playing. And that's because that is not working. I'm going to scrap it. Instead, we should have a play one-shot delayed coroutine or IEnumerator in the player controller. Then we can start that coroutine in the player. Add a delay float in the parameter. Let's fire that coroutine from the enemy. Notice I have reverted the changes you made in the enemy script. Okay. So basically all that's going to happen there is we're going to move the coroutine inside of the player controller, and then we're going to fire that delay, that delayed coroutine inside of the player, not inside of the enemy, because you don't want a coroutine that gets canceled and that yield is suddenly irrelevant because the enemy is destroyed, right? I'm going to hit play here just to... We could use a central sound manager. In my case, my central sound manager is actually right here, which is in my player controller prefab, and it's just this audio pool. And it's just, right now, it's just two sources, but you could have a bunch of sound managers. You could definitely have a sound manager, but in my case, it's just in the player controller. That's why we're going to be firing it from the player controller, not from the enemies. Okay. So this is our enemy script. Hopefully we don't have any stupid stuff happening here. Play one shot delayed. Good, 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 good. That's all set. What about the player controller? Okay, good. Yeah, the player controller script got changed, added here. This is plain one shot delay, play shoot sound. Good, so we can just do it here. Okay. Need to use collections. Okay. What was the delay set for the enemy though? Death sound delay. Okay, so it's in the actual enemy itself, which is going to be, okay, hurt sound delay, we're going to do 0.1. Death sound delay is 0.1 as well. That's fine. Let's hit play and take a look. Okay, it's a little too delayed, but you guys get the idea, right? It's a little too delayed. You're probably thinking, well, this is silly. You know, what's the point of this? This tiny little delay is what matters. It really matters. And in fact, you know, Twisted Tower, I'll have bugs associated with this all the time. I could just strip it from the game, but I want that subtle delayed. You want duka, duka, duka. Okay, one little thing we need to do with this death, we have a little glitch here, which is if we're going to set dead to true, what the heck is this? On enemy killed? Anyway, we're going to say dead equals true. I heard multiple sounds. If dead is false, you can play the hurt sound. If current health is smaller than or equal to 0 and dead is false, then do this. If dead is false, let's wrap this whole thing in if dead. Yeah. If dead is true, return. If dead is true, return. Don't do any of this crap. Otherwise, dead is true. I don't know why I need to do this because it should destroy the game object. I don't know why. I heard that sound multiple times, and I don't know what happened. I'm not recommending anybody use Claude. I would never be so foolish, because you get dogpiled. And rightfully so. I don't know. I don't know. Nobody knows. I really don't know. Why did you just die? Oh. Oh man, it's so much fun. So much fun. Guys, I had a blast. We're going to jump into a workshop tomorrow. Probably same time, 12, 1 o'clock. We'll do another workshop to wrap up this game. So far, we've gotten the bulk of the work done, actually. So I'm really, really excited about this game. I think it's really, really fun. If this was helpful, leave a like, leave a comment. And by the way, free game kit below. Totally free. If you want to make a 2D game, totally free game kit below. It's my treat to you. There's some other game kits as well at thomasbrush.com. So check it out. See if it's something you're interested in. I love you guys. Take it easy. Cheers.